A game that you might have missed out on for its survival gameplay is Fallout 4. While the main game also features some of these aspects, there's a dedicated survival mode featured within the game that provides a real challenge. This mode can be triggered before starting a new game and can't be toggled within the settings after already starting a new game. There are several changes that make the game a bit more difficult, whether it's adding weight to ammunition, no fast traveling, more damage, being subject to fatigue, and having no option to quick save. Instead, the only way to save the game is to sleep in a bed. Shrunk down to the size of an insect, you find yourself tiny and alone, wandering around a typical family garden. Given your size, what once was a small patch of grass now seems like the Amazon jungle, and obviously, a lot more danger awaits you than you'd first expect. Using the surrounding resources, like grass and dew, you must scramble to survive as predators seek you out. These predators include the likes of ants, birds, spiders, and more. As a microscopic version of your former self, Grounded grants you an entirely new perspective of taking a stroll around your garden, and also hosts a new approach to the survival genre altogether.
Whoa! Whoa!
We happy few places players in an alternative timeline in Europe where citizens are forced to consume a daily drug, blinding them from the harsh realities of the world. The game's narrative follows protagonists who have refused to take the drug, allowing them to see the corruption and horror surrounding them. As they venture out to solve their own mysteries, they'll have to carefully stay under the radar to avoid bringing unwanted attention. Going about this game will require players to avoid battles when possible, otherwise, there's a chance of being overrun and in need of a quick way to remove yourself from the public eye. Likewise, you'll need to keep your vitals up along the way, which could mean finding something to feast on when possible. DayZ first started as a mod for the ARMA2 Operation Arrowhead, which later inspired developers to give it a standalone release. Players are tasked with surviving a fictional post-Soviet republic during the zombie pandemic. Starting out, players have practically nothing, and it's up to them to scavenge items from around the map. The game focuses on human interaction, and players can either join forces or attempt to kill each other. The fun part is trying to figure out whether you're in danger before it's too late. DayZ had a bit of a rocky release, but it's managed to make a decent comeback. Ark Survival Evolved might offer the most unique spin on dinosaurs in this entire list, with the game taking place in a breathtaking original universe with harsh environments and even harsher wildlife. It's easy to compare Studio Wildcard's survival game gameplay to Minecraft, as players learn to hunt and gather the resources necessary to deal with the world around them. While Ark Survival Evolved does share much in common when it comes to its systems and crafting mechanics, the playground it takes place in couldn't be more different. What Ark lacks in polish it makes up for with interesting creatures, interactivity, and a foundation that encourages experimentation.
To prepare.
Chernobylite might just be the most immersive entry on this list. The Farm 51's first-person survival game is dripping with tension and horror, taking place in a 3D scan version of Chernobyl's exclusion zone. If walking through a twisted version of an infamous nuclear power plant doesn't pull you in, maybe the game's RPG elements and the non-linear story will. Either way, there's not much like being dropped into the world of Chernobylite. Conan Exiles is an open-world survival game set within the world of Conan the Barbarian, but the story won't follow the title character himself. Instead, players will create their own unique protagonist. From the start of the game, players will find that their character has been sentenced to death by crucifixion under the blazing sun. As you lay waiting for death, Conan comes by and rescues your character, leading players to navigate the harsh and unforgiving world. Now labeled as an outcast, players will have to roam the wasteland where the weak are killed. You'll find that in order to stay alive, you'll need to gather resources, craft goods, and dominate fights in a world filled with enemies. You'll learn early on that players will have the stamina to watch out for along with thirst and hunger. The Flame in the Flood is a roguelike survival adventure game that follows a young girl named Scout who is traveling down a river after a flood destroys most of humanity. Being a roguelike survival game, players will want to aim for progressing through the game without dying, otherwise they will lose precious equipment and valuables. However, there is a checkpoint system, so instead of starting completely over and attempting to regain resources, players can choose to start from a previous checkpoint. Seven Days to Die is a popular zombie game from developers The Fun Pimps. The game takes place after a world war that caused much of the planet to be wiped out due to nuclear weaponry. Exposed to the radiation, a large majority of humans became mindless zombies, leaving the remaining few survivors to scavenge for survival. Much like other zombie survival games, this is a wave-based title where players will need to seek out shelter, food, and water. There's quite a bit of crafting in this game, and as the title suggests, players only have a week to prepare their settlement. At the end of the week, a horde of zombies will come to raid your area. If you survive the night, you're able to once again go out and gather supplies, refortify your base, and even make some useful upgrades. This game also comes with the added benefit of cooperative gameplay, allowing players to build a base up with friends and prepare for the fight ahead. It may seem like a theme for this list, but players will once again find that this title is also stuck in early access. In Don't Starve, players are dropped into a dark and dreary world with little instruction about what to do. Players control a scientist named Wilson as he survives through the night with monsters and supernatural enemies hot on his tail. Throughout the game, players will have to search and scavenge the world during the day to gather supplies from firewood to food to survive nightfall. This survival game received a standalone expansion called Don't Starve Together not long after the game was released. The gameplay remains the same, but multiplayer support has been added. Have fun with a friend or a random player online. Green Hell is a survival game set in the Amazon rainforest. Players take the role of Jake Higgins, an anthropologist that awakens on the Amazon River. Knowing that his wife, Mia, had gone missing when attempting to contact the indigenous people, Jake seeks answers. However, being alone in the Amazon rainforest is extremely dangerous. You'll have to work on navigating through the forest, gathering details, and ensuring your vitals are up. You may not only deal with a lack of food and water, but being in the rainforest could mean stumbling upon poisonous animals. Likewise, if you're not addressing your wounds or getting enough sleep, it's easy for Jake to start hallucinating. The Long Dark is unlike any other game on this list. Drenched in atmosphere and an overwhelming feeling of isolation, Hinterland Studios' first-person exploration game puts the player against the cold, asking them to do whatever it takes to survive. Living with the aftermath of a geomagnetic disaster is only half the battle, as you'll soon learn the importance of endurance in an environment that's truly out to get you. Within Astroneer, there's no storyline or set end goal. Instead, the game asks players to build, craft, and simply survive the harsh elements of the world. Players take on the role of an astronaut who navigates a world that can be shared freely. The game allows crafting and exploration through the use of various vehicles. However, the open-world environment can be troublesome for our protagonist, which ultimately means players will need to keep a sharp eye on their surroundings. To keep your protagonist alive, players will need to gather resources such as fuel to power the spacecraft, along with a healthy stockpile of oxygen reserve tanks. This War of Mine is a very different game compared to the other titles on this list. In this game, players control a group of survivors caught in a city under siege. When we think of war games, we're usually in the perspective of a soldier going into battle against evil forces. In this game, players are not soldiers, but everyday individuals who are attempting to survive the harsh realities of wartime. Players will find that it's too dangerous to leave their building during the day. This means going out at night to find resources. Overall, you're attempting to keep your group alive and well, but you'll soon find out that there will be some extremely difficult decisions that you'll have to make. Morals will be put in question as you seek out goods and keep those in your care safe. One of the It Got Better Over Time games on this list, No Man's Sky, is a fine example of a team making good on its promise. What started off as a relatively simple and bare-bones space sim has finally gone on to be something much, much bigger. Cruising through space, building your own spaceport, or leading expositions on different planets have never been more seamless thanks to massively improved loading times. Heaps of content, including mech suits and more ship options, not to mention multiplayer, make No Man's Sky a much more improved experience than its Holo launch in 2016. You've heard of Minecraft, a global phenomenon. Endless worlds can be created and explored, making for quite a fun and relaxing gameplay experience. The main focus of this game is to explore and thrive in a world filled with friendly critters, NPCs, and monsters. When you start a game, you'll need to build, harvest, hunt, and maintain your health along with your hunger. Meanwhile, you'll have the ability to explore and find great spots to start building up a base. It's all about progression, getting a system established to keep resources up, improving your base, and obtaining better tools to make the overall experience a bit more seamless. Of course, if you don't want to go through the game as a survival experience, there is a creative mode option that gives players the ability to freely create without the fear of losing a life, progression, or precious items. This game does offer the ability to allow up to 4 players in a local co-op online. You can work with up to 8 players. Subnautica is an alien ocean survival game full of beautiful and sometimes dangerous alien wildlife to interact with. The playable character's ship is shot out of orbit by a mysterious pulse gun. As the only survivor of the crash, he has to explore and survive his new underwater environment. Meanwhile, there is a larger plot taking place. Another alien race is attempting to cure a plague in their community by harvesting the eggs of a huge and ancient alien creature called the Sea Emperor. Communicating telepathically with her, he attempts to find her and set her free. This first-person perspective survival game has multiple modes of difficulty. In survival mode, you have to manage your thirst, hunger, oxygen, and health, but if you die, you respawn. However, in hardcore mode, there's no coming back, and in creative mode, life is an absolute breeze. You can just build things and explore without worrying about health and thirst, etc. The open world format is really cool too. While there is an overarching plotline, most of the game is you exploring and gathering resources. Considering the beautiful underwater world, there is so much to explore. Plus, you get to catalog and interact with the alien wildlife.
Life on this planet grows in unusually distinct and diverse ecological biomes. Further study recommended.
Open world and survival games go hand in hand, and while there are many to pick from, Subnautica Below Zero easily takes a spot on our list. What better way to show off the depth of the Xbox's power than by showing off the depth of the sea? Subnautica Below Zero, a sequel to 2018's debut, is more of the same but better. Stranded on another planet, players will have to build bases and scavenge resources to survive both harsh climates and harsher monsters. There's a lot to take in, as you start off with very little, but in time, you'll be building sequest-worthy operating bases. It's tough, like the weather conditions you face, but so worth it when it all comes together. Taking the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century from a different perspective and presenting us with a detailed strategic struggle accompanied by rich storytelling, Frostpunk tells how civilization, as we know it, ended when our planet was mysteriously frozen and the human race had to adapt to harsh conditions. Perhaps as the leader of the last civilized society on Earth, you will develop the city of your survivors, discover new technologies, organize expeditions to the frozen wastelands, and above all, manage your society. Whether you are an enlightened ruler or a despotic tyrant, the choices you make in this world are not as easy as they seem, and the cost of having a say over people is heavy because of your sense of responsibility towards your people. Frostpunk Console Edition, this version of the award-winning game developed by 11-bit studios, has been specially adapted to bring console gamers the full Frostpunk experience. It is worth noting that all updates released since its release on PC are also included in the console edition. Rust is a fantastic game that's all about brutal, hardcore survival skills. On the other hand, you'll almost certainly come across some people in public servers that are merciless, making getting started a little difficult. Provided you avoid helicopters, wild animals, and don't let your first home disintegrate while you're AFK, you should be able to get a good start in Rust with these fundamentals. That is, up until you have the right resources to blast any menacing wild boar or nosy neighbor back to where they came from. Rust is all about building yourself up from nothing, and likely later losing it all in a PvP shootout, but that's part of the fun. Simply put, Rust is brutal. If you make a mistake, the title is often incredibly unforgiving, and that's exactly why people like it. Rust is one for those who have a little more time to commit to their survival experience, and fortunately for you, the game continues to evolve in terms of its community and grow in terms of its content. So, you've got plenty of exciting savagery to be getting up to.